Okay, in the previous video I showed you we have three types of formula in LaTeX. One of these three types is in fact you can generate the formula in the middle of a new line by begin equation star and end equation star. Now if you ignore from star here and star here, and in fact you just in fact write backslash begin equation formula backslash end equation and the continuation of your text, and if you run the code, you can see that exactly the previous text will appear with a very big difference. If you scroll to the right, you can find out a 1 appear here. Okay, this is the number of the formula. This number of the formula has very in fact useful when you want to refer to this formula. If you want to refer to this to a formula in the text, you have to do two things. First of all, after begin equation, you have to use the command label, okay, and consider a label for the formula. For example, I write equation number 1, EQ1, okay, and now you can refer to this formula in the continuation of your text. For example, you can write in. Now if you want to refer to this formula, I told you about the in fact formula in the previous videos. Let me stop something. Okay, in the previous videos I showed you if you want to in fact refer to a section or to a chapter, you could use backslash ref, and then you can write the name of the label. For example, something like this: in backslash ref eq1 we saw something. Now let me try exactly this one. If you use something like this and you run in fact the document 2 times, a 1 will appear here. But for referring to a formula, this kind of in fact backslash ref is not correct, because you have to put a left and right parenthesis between in fact around 1. Now one thing we can use is that you put a open parenthesis here and a right parenthesis here and run the code. In this case, 1 will be appear between 2 parentheses, okay? But this is not very good, because we have in fact a special command to this end. You can write, for example, we use backslash, and if you write eq ref and then the label of the formula and the continuation, let me run the code and see what happened. Now look at this. We use open in fact left parenthesis, 1 right parenthesis, and something more. So I suggest, if you have a table, a section, a subsection, in fact a figure and something like this, you use backslash ref. And if you have an equation and you want to refer to a special equation, you can use backslash eq ref. This is much better and much easier, okay? And just one thing you have to note is that if, for example, here we have article. Now let me show you. If we have some section, for example, you have a section here. Let me write just something, okay? And here let me write backslash section as a new section 2. Okay, now let me run the code one time. Let me section 1, section 2, rerun. Now look, in fact you have to run 2 times. Okay, now the code will work and no problem. But the problem is that the number of the formula is not based on the section here. If you want, the number of the formula will in fact depend on the number of section. I mean, I want the number of the formula be something like 1, 1. Okay, in this case you can use special command. We call it number within, and you can write equation, and then you can write, for example, section. Okay, now if you run the code 2 times, you will get something like this. First one and the second one. Okay, the number of the formula is 1.1, and when we refer also you can see in 1.1. Now what happened if I write a new formula in section 2? Let me check. Let me write a new formula here, backslash begin equation backslash label equation number 2 backslash end equation, and let me write, for example, something like this: sine 2x plus backslash cosine square x is equal to 1. Okay, and let me refer to the formula in section 1. Okay, in backslash eq ref eq to v c and something more. Now let me run the code. Look at the output, please. Let me see what happened here. eq1 begin equation. I have a mistake, so let me rerun. Now it works. Now the first one and the second one, 2 run. You need in TeXworks, you need 2 run. Now look, the first equation is 1.1, the second equation is 2.1. And if you refer to the in fact formula in section 1, it will appear something like this in 2.1, and in section 2 you will have in 1.1. This is in fact about the referring to the formula, and you can in fact manage the number of formula based on the section or based on the chapter. Also, if you have a book, for example, let me change from article, for example, to book. Okay, now let me put, instead of section, let me put chapter backslash chapter here, and also let me change it to chapter backslash chapter, and also you have to change here from section to chapter. Now if you run the code, in the first run you will have something like this. This is the first page, this is the free page. Here you will have 1.1, and here you will have 2.1. And in the second run the number of the formula will be generated in correct format. And also, if you have inside the chapter some section, for example, suppose that you have to something like this, section 1, okay, and also let me compile the code again. Okay, you will have something like this. There is which has no different from the previous one. Why? Because the number of the formula will be reset at the start of a chapter. If you want the number of the formula start at the reset at the start of each section, you have to change this again to section. Now, if you run the code for 2 times, 1, now look, this is 2.1.1, okay, and for the first one, 101. Why 101? Because we don't have any section here. And the beautiful thing is that we have not to be worried about the number of the formula. Okay, I mean, suppose that here, for example, here, you put a new formula, for example, B for this one, okay, B for this one. Suppose that you have a new formula here, something like that, begin equation / end equation, and let me put a label here, everything that you want, for example, EQ3, and a formula A plus B equal to C. Okay, we refer in the first chapter to equation 2. Okay, the number of the equation 2 in the first chapter, you can look at here, is 2.1, and the number of the equation in chapter 2 is 2. Let me recompile it. The number of the formula is not correctly generated. So 2.1, okay, and here 2.11, okay. Now if you enter a new formula, something like this, and you rerun the code, the number of the formula will change in the chapter 1. I mean 2.12, and here I have 2.12. I mean the number of the formula when some formula add or remove to the text will change automatically when we refer to the formula. So we are not worried about the order of the formula and about the referring to the formula. You can just write your text, and just you have to note that you have to use the right label for referring to a special formula. So this is something about generating some formula with number and how to refer to a formula. Please subscribe to my channel and wait for more lectures. Thank you.